Hello, my friend. Thank you for being here today. Have you ever wondered what truly shaped the will of humanity from the very first days of history? People often talk about golden ages, about guiding stars in the sky. But few realize there was an age that carved deep into the human soul, the fire of existence itself. That age was the Age of Aries. So come with me. Let's return to that forgotten story, where Aries was never just a symbol of the ram or of the warrior. It was a sacred reminder that we have the right to exist and the right to create our own path. Aries is not only the familiar image of the ram, of raw strength, or of the warrior marching into battle. That is only the surface, the outer shell we can easily see. Beneath it, the Age of Aries carries another story, a larger current. The moment when humanity's very first fire was lit, a fire that guided generations to come. It was the moment when human beings learned to call themselves by name, to declare for the first time, I exist, I am part of this universe. When I contemplate Aries, I often picture a sacred torch, a flame that doesn't wait for someone to hand it down, doesn't wait for blessing or approval. It burns on its own from the courage deep within. Sometimes it flickers softly, sometimes it roars bright, but it is always there, reminding us that our path never has to be a copy of anyone else. We can and we deserve to walk our journey with our own steps. Through the long stream of history, the Age of Aries opened a time of willpower. It was when humanity stopped only looking up at the heavens and began to say, I have a voice, I have an identity, I carry a flame that must be lit. That flame was the birth of the self, the first step toward knowing that we have the right to choose and the power to create destiny. Yet behind that light was the shadow of trial. The Aries fire, meant to illuminate, sometimes turned into fire for ambition and conflict. And there lies a deep lesson: any energy used only to prove, to conquer, will sooner or later become a burden. But when joined with wisdom, with compassion, it opens a doorway to freedom. I often ask myself, how many times in life have we fought just to prove our worth? How many times felt we had to shout in the crowd, only so others would know we exist? How many times did our hearts tremble as we stood and said, I have the right to be here, I matter? Those moments are the imprint of Aries within us. Not always a battlefield, sometimes just a quiet conversation with ourselves. When we finally had the courage to admit, we are worthy of love, worthy of respect. And if you've ever lived such a moment, no matter how small, I invite you to share it, because your story might just be the flame that helps someone else step out of their own darkness. In today's world, we are not lacking information. What we need more than ever are flames of inspiration. The Age of Aries is a powerful reminder we were not born to wait, to hide, to live in someone else's shadow. We were born to open, to affirm, to step forward. The Aries flame is a call to rise, to walk with your true feet, and to let your presence resound like a bold hymn. But as we go deeper, another truth emerges. That fire is not only a beginning, not only a guiding light, it is also a challenge. Because many times in history, this fire was misused, turned into a torch of conquest and domination. And there we begin to see, the journey of Aries is not only about standing up and declaring, but about keeping the flame pure, refusing to let it be twisted. In the quiet breathing of time, we realize the Aries flame was never only pure light, nor absolute darkness. It is both. It is gift, and it is test. And only with awareness do we learn how to walk between those two edges. So, dear listener, when you close your eyes and think of yourself, can you sense a flame waiting to rise? A flame that has slept for so long, hidden by fear, by judgment, by enforced silence. Maybe today is the day you dare to look again and admit, I am still here, I have never gone out. That flame does not ask you to be a hero on the battlefield. It only asks you to be brave enough to be the hero of your own life. And when we ignite that flame, the world around us begins to change as well. Yet, the story of Aries does not end here, because human history has seen not only the light of Aries, but also the shadows when that flame was seized and distorted. And that journey has left in us marks that cannot be erased. Long ago, fire was given to humanity as a sacred gift. It carried the meaning of illumination, of freedom, of a self that could rise and declare, I exist. But like any flame, when touched by hands that lack awareness, its light can turn to a blaze, and its guidance can become a wildfire that swallows the soul. The fire of Aries was once like that. It stood as a symbol of sovereignty, of a unique voice. But when exploited and twisted, it became storms of violence, conquest, and unrestrained pride. We only need to look back at history to see it. The fire born to warm the heart was turned into a torch of war, so many times in the name of truth and justice. Humanity carried the Aries flame to burn cities, to spread suffering, instead of guiding freedom. That fire became a weapon, the strong against the weak. And there we find the deeper lesson. Any energy, no matter how pure its light at the start, without wisdom to guide it and compassion to balance it, will soon be turned into a tool of control. Buddhist teaching reminds us, fire is wisdom, but wisdom without compassion will burn the very place it was meant to warm. When Aries became nothing more than dry force, it lost its soul. It no longer shone as the flame of freedom, it cracked like a whip against the powerless. It no longer taught humanity the right to choose, it became a rallying cry for bloody wars, where human worth was measured only in power and spilled blood. If we pause and listen, we know this feeling ourselves. Have you ever felt your inner strength misunderstood, twisted into something that was not you? Have you ever been hurt when the courage you offered was seen by others as a threat? Have you ever realized that even while trying to defend what was right, you ended up wounding those you love? These questions are not to condemn, but to remind us. The shadow of Aries still lives in every life, teaching us to see it and to transform it. In today's world, that shadow doesn't just appear on battlefields. It lives in the quiet wars inside us. When you feel you must always prove yourself, always be strong, never let anyone see your weakness, that's when your inner flame is at risk of being taken. It is no longer light for freedom. It becomes the weight of expectation and pressure. And here lies the truth. We don't only need strength, we also need softness. We must learn to use fire to warm, not to burn. From a human perspective, the shadow of Aries is a warning across generations. Strength doesn't always mean victory, and victory doesn't always mean happiness. A nation may conquer half the world, but if its flame is fed only by ambition and blood, it will eventually burn itself. A person may gather countless successes, but if those triumphs are built on exhaustion, loneliness, and wounds inside, that light is nothing more than a flame burning out. When I reflect on this, one truth becomes clear. Shadows don't exist to destroy, they exist to awaken. It is through history's mistakes that we learn the value of awareness. Only when we've seen fire consume can we learn to keep it burning gently. Only when we've fallen can we understand that true courage is not conquering the world, it is facing ourselves, embracing the most fragile parts within. If you're listening now, give yourself a pause, close your eyes, and recall a moment when your strength was misused or left you hurt. That feeling lingers like a scar. Sometimes it keeps you from lighting the full flame of your heart. But believe this, within those scars lies the lesson of Aries. Strength does not need to be harsh to be seen. It only needs to live in honest eyes, in hands that know how to lift, in a heart that knows how to love. The flame has never been the enemy. The only enemy is how we choose to use it. And when we truly see that, we realize the shadow of Aries is not here to frighten us, it is here to teach us how to keep our fire pure and compassionate. Yes, the world outside still uses fire to dominate. Voices still rise to prove who is stronger, but within you, you can choose another way. You can use fire to light the smile of someone you love, to keep your own hands warm, to guide your steps on the days you feel lost. That is the gift of Aries, when seen through the light of compassion. And once we see this, we step into a deeper layer of the Aries symbol, because if fire can be twisted, then the ram's horns spiraling forever also carry mysteries about the soul's journey. Those horns were never only for charging against life. They remind us of the eternal spiral of creation and of the inner world. To understand more deeply, we must look into the most profound symbol of Aries, the horns that curve without end. The horns of Aries have long been carved into humanity's memory. Most people see them only as weapons, as raw aggression, ready to smash through anything that dares to block the way. But when we stop, when we let the soul listen instead of just looking, the horns reveal much more. They are not just a mark of a creature, they are an ancient code of creation. a message the universe whispered to humanity about the twin journey of the soul. One horn spirals forward, reaching toward the future, carrying within it the drive, the hunger to conquer, the will to break new ground. It is the voice of the ego, the powerful breath that says, "I must go, I must move, I must push ahead." The other horn curls inward like a closed circle, drawing us back to the inner world, reminding us that every outer journey will be empty if the inside remains dark. These two spirals are not in conflict. They are the two breaths of the same soul moving out and turning back in, exploring and reflecting, leaving and returning. If we understand this rightly, the horns teach a simple but profound lesson. Move forward, yes, but do not forget to shine light within. Build the world outside, but do not abandon the temple inside. Let your steps wander far, but let your heart come closer home. The fire of Aries is powerful, but without the light of inner clarity, it is only a flame exposed to the wind, flaring bright, then fading fast, leaving nothing but ash. In my own meditation, I realized a simple truth. No step outward is steady, if chaos still rules within. You can build a tower that touches the sky, but if the foundation of your soul has never been cared for, even a gentle breeze can shake it. You can achieve titles, power, success, but if your inner world is still an unlit chamber, eventually you will collapse. So let me invite you, those listening now, to recall a moment in your life when you stood at a crossroad. One path was the ego urging you, push harder, prove yourself, claim it all. The other path was the small whisper of the soul, pause, listen, love yourself first. Which road did you choose? And if you look back today, do you see that sometimes slowing down, sometimes listening, was the truest act of courage? With every breath of humanity, the horns of Aries are still here. One side calls us not to fear, to step forward bravely. The other reminds us that the greatest courage is not conquering the world outside, but looking straight into ourselves and not turning away. When these two spirals join as one, we find balance between desire and peace, between striving and surrender, between action and the stillness of the soul. But people do not always remember this. History shows us again and again, when the inner voice is ignored, the outward spiral grows too strong. People rush forward without restraint, without reflection, and the fire once given to light the path becomes a storm that devours everything it touches. When the soul is silenced, the ego takes the wheel. It drives us into endless battles, into bottomless hunger for conquest, into cycles of pride and collapse. And that is when the shadow of Aries rises again, not to destroy us, but to teach us. Any journey without balance between inner and outer will sooner or later end in loss. So when you think of those curved horns, don't see only the force, the collision, the brute power. See the twin spirals moving together, one pushing you forward, one drawing you back within. Let them both guide you at once. That is the deeper meaning the universe placed in this image. Yet history reminds us of a hard truth. When the inner call is not heard, when the spiral inward is neglected, the fire of Aries twists once more, and its shadow returns, covering humanity as a lesson each of us must one day face. Back then, as the sound of war drums echoed through the valleys, humanity raised blood into a symbol. The Age of Aries did not only record victories, it carved into history the bloody chapters of conquest and martyrdom. People believed only spilled blood could prove loyalty. Only the sacrifice of the body could open the gates to glory. The flame of Aries, born to illuminate, was twisted into a torch that burned away all that was different, feeding the power of the strong, painting false halos above thrones. The image of the fearless warrior, charging into battle without hesitation, became an emblem for generations to admire. But behind that glory, how many mothers wept in silence? How many children grew up never once seeing their fathers? Blood flowed endlessly. Yet the question still echoes today. Were all those sacrifices truly sacred? Or were some of them nothing more than food for the ego, protection for the power of a few? In Buddhist teaching, there is a hard truth. The highest sacrifice is not the spilling of blood, but the surrender of arrogance. When the ego bows, when the hunger for power is set down, only then can peace be real. But humanity in the Age of Aries did not understand this. They worshipped martyrdom. They built stories to glorify the fallen. And without knowing, they turned blood into the measure of holiness. The more blood spilled, the more people were deceived into believing that suffering itself was proof of love, proof of loyalty. And you, listening now, look into your own life. How many times have you carried responsibilities or pain that were never really yours simply because you thought it was your duty? How many times did you believe that if you just stayed silent, sacrificed a little more, endured a little longer, your family, work, the ones you love would be at peace? And how many times did you realize in all that sacrifice, you lost yourself? The history of the Age of Aries mirrors this. Humanity worshipped victory, but forgot life. They honored the warrior, but ignored the fragile heart beneath the armor. They praised martyrs, but buried the voices of those who simply longed for a peaceful life. The shadow of the warrior is not always on the battlefield. It also lives inside us. It appears every time we choose to carry more pain instead of daring to put it down. It whispers every time we believe love is only proven by suffering, that loyalty must be measured by ultimate sacrifice. But the truth is simpler. True love has never demanded blood. True faith has never required destruction. And the most sacred loyalty is loyalty to your soul, to your inner light, not to systems that drain your strength. Even today, those old legacies remain. We still see sacrifice praised as an absolute value. We still applaud those who exhaust themselves at work, those who trade away health for success, as if that is the only way to prove worth. But look closer, and you'll see the truth. Not all sacrifice is sacred. Some sacrifices only extinguish the flame inside us, little by little. Some sacrifices open no doors except the door to exhaustion and sorrow. In quiet reflection, I often ask, how many eyes could have shone brighter if not weighed down by pain? How many laughs could have been heard if not silenced by burdens of sacrifice? And how many flames could have been lit if humanity had known that true worth is not measured in blood, but in compassion and in truth? So, dear listener, maybe right now you're carrying a responsibility too heavy, a burden that keeps you from breathing deep. I want you to remember this. The most beautiful sacrifice is not losing yourself, it is keeping yourself whole so you can still give love. A heart unbroken is the only heart that can heal others. A flame still burning is the only flame that can light 1,000 candles. And that is the sacrifice worthy of being called sacred. When blood became a symbol, humanity stepped into a long shadow. But even that darkness carried a lesson. Only by letting go of the illusion of blind sacrifice can we return to the light that is real. And from there, we begin to see another truth, that Aries was never only darkness. In its deepest essence, it has always been a flame of awakening, a fire reminding us of our true strength. Tomorrow may still hold many unknowns, but right now, let us pause, take a deep breath, and listen to the story Aries gave to humanity. It is no accident that for thousands of years, the ram has stood firm in our collective memory. Beneath the shell of the warrior, beneath the drumbeats of battle and the songs of victory, there lies another gift, one that many have overlooked, the awakening of the sacred self. Aries did not come to tell us to follow a savior. It came to whisper, you don't need to follow anyone because you are the flame. That flame is not handed down by others. It does not rest in the hands of kings or priests, and it cannot be measured by victories outside. It rises from within your own heart, from the courage to say, I exist, I am myself, I have value, even before I prove anything. In the quiet hours of meditation, I discovered something. The Aries fire is never far away. It smolders in the chest like a sacred heartbeat. I believe that flame lives in each of us. It is the energy that carries us through fear, that walks us through the shadows of doubt, and brings us back to our truest self. And when we return, we realize something powerful. God has never been far above us judging. God has always been here within that flame, within our breath, within the life that flows through us. Maybe you felt this before, when the whole world told you another path was right, when they told you to stay quiet, when they said you weren't strong enough. And then a whisper inside rose up, soft but unmistakable, trust your intuition. You followed it, and what happened? Perhaps you lost support for a while, perhaps you faced loneliness, but in the end, you discovered your own truth. That was the Aries flame inside you, burning not to lead you after someone else, but to let you know you are the torchbearer. Through Aries, the universe reminds us, no one was born to be a shadow. Each soul carries a unique flame. Your task is not to compare your fire to another's, but to keep it shining, in your own way, when you truly show up, when your eyes no longer seek approval outside, when your heart is brave enough to trust itself, then you are living in the spirit of Aries. But let me share another truth many generations have misunderstood. Not every flame needs to roar to be real. Some fires glow just enough, steady and enduring, to warm a lifetime. Strength is not always the thunderous roar. Sometimes true strength is quiet, steady, the resolve to stay on your path even when no one else understands. And that quiet courage is the true gift Aries brings. My dear listener, maybe you have lived too long inside someone else's mold. Maybe you've carried expectations, responsibilities, even pain that were never yours to carry. But today, give yourself a pause. Place your hand on your chest and feel. There is a flame waiting. It does not ask if you are successful. It does not ask if you are perfect. It asks only, will you dare to be yourself? In the light of Aries, you don't need to be a hero out there. You only need the courage to be the hero of your own life. That is when you choose truth over illusion, intuition over noise, loyalty to your soul over the approval of the crowd. In that moment, you are not just living for yourself. You are giving a gift to the world, the gift of a human being who is real, unmasked, untamed by control or condition. And if you have ever trusted your intuition, even when the world said otherwise, remember that feeling, share that story, because your flame could be the light that helps someone else find their way out of the dark. This is not only personal strength, it is a gift to the community, to humanity itself. Aries came to teach us there is no torch greater than the one within. And when we keep it burning, we don't just find freedom, we find God in every breath we take. Yet, you and I both know this path is never easy, because even when the light rises, our hearts still carry wounds, still hold the painful memories left behind by the Age of Aries. And so the greater question remains, why, even today, do we still carry the scars of Aries deep within? There are wounds that never touch the skin, yet they echo through generations. They seep into the way we think, the way we love, even the way we define our own worth. The wound of Aries is one of those. It is no longer the battles fought on burning fields, no longer the clash of swords in the night, but it lives quietly in the collective mind of humanity. We see it in a culture that urges us. You must win, you must lead, you must be better than the rest. We see it in the fear of failure, where even the smallest mistake can feel like an invisible sentence carved into the heart. And maybe you have felt it too. When you walk into a room, not to be present but to prove yourself. When you go to work, not to live but to fight. When you love, not to open your heart but to make sure you won't lose. That is the echo left from the Age of Aries, the time when a sacred flame was turned into a banner of war. But Buddhist teaching offers a gentle truth. Suffering is not here to bind us, it is here to awaken us. If the pain of your ancestors still flows in your veins, it is not a curse, not destiny. It is an invitation to heal, to stop, to realize you do not have to keep repeating the same spiral. You have the right to choose a different path. So pause for a moment and ask yourself, are you living your life as a battlefield? Do you see each new day as a fight you must win? And if one day you stopped fighting, would you finally find freedom? This question is not here to make you quit. It is here to shift your vision. Because the truth is simple, freedom does not come from defeating others. It comes from no longer defeating yourself. Within each of us, the wound of Aries still whispers. It hides in the sleepless nights, haunted by the fear of failure. It lives in the tension of always needing to prove your value. It drives you into arguments your heart never really wanted. But listen closely. Beneath that wound lies an opportunity, the chance to let go. The chance to see that true strength is not standing forever on the mountaintop, it is having the freedom to sit down whenever your soul needs rest. I believe healing the Aries wound is not only a personal journey, it is a journey for the whole community, because we inherited this legacy from our ancestors, the legacy of battle, of blood, of fear. And so, every time you choose not to turn your life into a war, you are not just healing yourself, you are healing your family line. You are healing the memory of humanity. Dear listener, remember a time you chose to lay down an argument, not because you lost, but because you chose peace. Remember the moment you said to yourself, I don't need to fight anymore. I deserve to live fully even if no one else validates me. That was the moment you began to rewrite the story of Aries. The moment you returned the flame to its original gentleness. And when we dare to face the wound, When we dare to embrace it instead of running away, we realize something profound. The wound is not just the memory of pain, it is a doorway to light. Through it, we learn to live differently, to love differently, to see one another with kinder eyes. That is why the journey does not end with naming the wound. The real journey is to return the Aries flame to its pure form, no longer a fire for conquest or control, but a flame of awakening. Long ago, when humanity still looked at the sky as a mirror of destiny, the fire of Aries was seen as the fire of war. People tied it to images of blood, of conquest, of endless marches across the earth. But the truth is, that fire was never born to destroy. It is the fire of awakening, of wholehearted action, of inner sovereignty that needs no permission from anyone. Aries never asks you to conquer the whole world. It simply reminds you, light yourself first, and when you shine, the world around you will change. Like walking into a dark room, one single candle can transform the space. And when there is one flame, thousands more can be lit. That light never diminishes when shared, it only multiplies. That is the spirit of Aries once awakened. I believe true strength is not found in the battles won out there, but in your ability to stand firm within, even when storms crash around you. Inner sovereignty does not shout. It does not need to prove. It is the quiet power that keeps you from being swept away. It allows you to live true to yourself, not to please others, not to prove anything at all. Perhaps you've had a moment when that flame rose within you. Maybe it was the day you found the courage to say no, when before you would have stayed silent. Maybe it was when you turned onto a different path, even when everyone said you were wrong. Or maybe it was simply when you sat still, listened to your own breath, and realized you don't need to go anywhere else. The torch you've been searching for has always been in your heart. Dear listener, feel this with me now. Is the flame inside you still burning? Maybe you've let it grow small. Maybe you've covered it out of fear of being judged, but it has never gone out. It waits for you to open so it can shine again. And when it rises, it not only lights your path, it becomes a beacon for others still stumbling in the dark. One candle can light 1,000 others and never lose its own flame. That is the gift Aries brings to humanity. When you live true to yourself, you don't just free your own spirit, you free the spirits of those who look at you and whisper, if they can do it, so can I. So let me offer you a gentle invitation. If you feel your flame stirring right now, share in the comments a single word, just one that captures its energy. Maybe it's courage, maybe freedom, peace, or love. Your flame expressed in one word might be the light someone else needs to see. And when we ignite together, something miraculous happens. The world is no longer a battlefield to fight upon. It becomes soil for us to plant in. Action no longer means control. It becomes creation. And fire is no longer destruction. It becomes opening, and that is why in this very moment the Age of Aries matters more than ever before. Throughout the journey of the ages, humanity has learned many lessons, from the light and from the shadows, but perhaps never more than now has the Age of Aries become so important. Not because it promises new battles, not because it calls us into another conquest, but because the world today needs awakened Aries souls, people who rise not to break, but to illuminate, to heal, to bring courage and truth. We are living in a time of turmoil, false news everywhere, trust shaken, old values collapsing. And in this chaos, what humanity needs is not more warriors on the battlefield, but warriors of light, those who know true strength is not in the sword, but in keeping the flame alive in the heart, even in the middle of the storm. Those who know the greatest courage is not defeating others, but daring to live true to yourself. Aries reminds us you were not born to bow before the fire, to fear it, or to worship it from afar. You were born to remember you are the fire of life, of creation, of love. That flame is not always easy to see. It hides beneath the dust of doubt, of pain, of all the times you were denied. But if you sit still, if you turn inward, you will find it waiting, ready for you to call it by name. My friend, how long has it been since you truly believed in yourself? How long have you let others decide your worth? Let outside voices drown out your inner knowing. And isn't it time now to relight that flame? Ask yourself, what in you is waiting to be lit today? Is it a faith that once faded, a dream you abandoned long ago, or simply the peace your heart has always longed for? Share in the comments. Just one thing, the one you know is ready to burn again, not to prove anything to the world, but to confirm to your soul that the flame has never gone out. Because when you name it, when you claim it, you give yourself permission to shine once more. And who knows, your flame may reach someone far away, helping them find their own light again. The Age of Aries matters now more than ever, not because it changes the heavens, but because it invites you to change within. And when one person changes, the whole world changes. No slogans needed, no bloody revolutions, just one true flame spreading outward, touching thousands, millions of hearts. Thank you for walking this journey with me. And may you find again the sacred fire in your heart and let that light guide you and guide the world.